Gonzaga Volleyball was one of the most improved programs in the entire country last year under Coach JT Wenger. What does he have in store for his second season in Spokane? We'll hear from him in just a second.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Joined today by Gonzaga volleyball coach JT Wenger. Very fun conversation about last year, the success that they had going into the Pac-12 this year, what it means for the program and their competition. We're going to get into all of that. Very fun interview here. Check it out. Well, I'm thrilled to be joined now by Gonzaga women's volleyball coach JT Wenger. Coach, entering your second season after what was a phenomenally successful first year here in Spokane, led the Zags to one of the biggest single season improvements in the entire country, 13 more wins than they had the previous year. I know they struggled in that final year before you came in, but still great to see that level of success and improvement heading into now what will be your second season with the program. How do you kind of build on what was really a successful year coming over from UT Arlington now here in Spokane with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it feels very different in the gym already. The different set of expectations after having a season just a half game under 500. So I think there's more ambition, which is exciting. The athletes have been fantastic about kind of growing in that way. Definitely presents a new set of challenges, no question there, but we're excited about it.
Yeah, that was kind of leads well into my next question of like, what does that do in terms of the players that are coming back, kind of knowing and seeing that success and that turnaround? And then what does it do from kind of a recruiting perspective and being able to keep student athletes and get new student athletes in when they see, hey, this is not the program that won just one match. This is the program that, like you said, was right under 500 and is clearly moving in the right direction. And I'm sure the Pac-12 plays a role in some of that recruiting stuff as well. But kind of what did that turnaround and that success kind of do to help maybe keep talent and bring in new talent to this program?
Yeah, I think you said it. I think that there's just a different perspective on what Gonzaga volleyball is. And right, the move to a new conference being the Pac-12, I think is exciting as well. A little bit more of a national reach from a recruiting standpoint. I think also, I used the word ambition before. I think it's just a broader spectrum of what's out there for us. So, it's just a very different feel. We have 8 new athletes from a season ago that were not here for the previous few years. So they don't have the same kind of program institutional knowledge, so to speak. So it's a different feel already, but it's exciting.
Yeah, let's talk about what that Pac-12 kind of means here. Obviously, we know the Pac-12 has a bit more national reach, brand recognition, even if it's a very different looking conference in terms of the programs. There's still some, as a conference that was around for over 100 years, that brand recognition matters. Obviously, University for Gonzaga in particular is getting some more money from the media deal, which I'm sure will trickle down to all the different programs as well. But for you looking at this conference, I mean, a lot of these teams were wildly successful last year. And I know the WCC was a successful volleyball conference as well, but looking at Utah State, Texas State, Colorado State, Boise State, all teams that were ranked quite high in RPI last year. So what does it mean for you specifically, and also for Gonzaga to be in this Pac-12 conference, to be competing against a new set of programs and a set of programs that frankly has had a lot of success in this sport in the recent past?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're excited to feel out as we go along. As you mentioned, there's a lot of kind of perennial volleyball powers, teams that consistently compete, either in the tournament or on the fringe of the tournament, which I think at least last year's West Coast Conference, the top was very good, but there was a lot of middle last year, we'll say. Whereas for this year, the poll came out for the Pac-12, and I don't know. There's some teams that I thought were really strong that ended up in the bottom half. So I think it'll be an interesting league. I think that night to night it can change pretty dramatically based on who's playing well at what time. I think that's something that it'll be interesting learning. A bunch of new teams. I've got experience obviously with Oregon State and Washington State, but personally I was in the same league as Texas State for a long time, so I have a little bit of feel there too. And Colorado State is always very strong, and it'll be great. it'll be great.
Yeah, you mentioned Texas State. I was going to go there because I think that's the team that far and away is the least familiar to Gonzaga fans in any sport, just from being a team that, hasn't been competing out on the West Coast very often and just isn't particularly well known. And I've noticed they have been quite good at volleyball and were quite good last year as well. And I know you competed against them a lot at UTA. And I'm curious what you think they bring to the conference and kind of maybe your reaction to them joining the Pac-12 when that happened.
Texas State is a sleeping giant of an institution. Their campus is actually really pretty. It's, for those that don't know, it's about 40 minutes south of Austin and about 45 minutes north of San Antonio. So it's accessible. Not that this is a sales pitch for Texas State, but there's reasons why they do have some things going for them. And I can say at UT Arlington, I won exactly 0 recruiting battles against Texas State. So it is a draw, especially for volleyball. I think that Gonzaga fans that make the trip to San Marcos, Texas will enjoy their time there. It's been a volleyball power for a really long time. I think this is only their second head coach ever because the previous coach was there for a very long time. And he was hired from within. So you talk about the inertia of a program. They've been successful for a long time and they do a good job there. So it'll be fun. It will be interesting. I agree to see them playing some West Coast teams and the mountain teams and getting a little bit of a broader, competition base. So it'll be fun.
You have experience in your coaching career at a pair of, legacy or former Pac-12 schools in Colorado and UCLA, where you coached on the men's side. And I'm curious, as you kind of look at this new Pac-12, obviously, not with the exception of Oregon State and Washington State, who are longtime members of the conference. It's a very new look league. And it's, it's not the same as what we saw before, but it's kind of this opportunity for a rebirth and a rebrand, obviously in all sports. And I'm kind of curious your level of excitement and intrigue as we get into a new conference that has the ability to kind of build completely from the ground up. I mean, that's a unique experience in college athletics that often you don't get that experience. You're in a conference for 30, 40, 50 years, and it sort of feels like there's not a lot of wiggle room and you kind of are stuck in your ways. And now there's a chance to kind of do things differently and maybe reestablish a name for yourself in a conference that doesn't really have that kind of tradition and history.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be a volleyball conference. I think that's something that I'm excited about, is because you have a lot of schools that have put resources into volleyball. And on the broader spectrum, the league as a whole, you've got at least 2 basketball programs, men's basketball programs that have made it to a Final Four, and then football. You have teams that are bowl eligible almost every year. So I think again, from the national standpoint, it is a unique opportunity, and I think just such a jump for Gonzaga from that standpoint.
Well, the NCAA's new 5-and-5 rules have a big impact on volleyball. Coach Wenger details how he's navigating that and his love of Spokane and the Gonzaga community after a year here. We're going to get into all of that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. There are more live events than ever that are worth seeing right now. You got volleyball games coming up, you got concerts, comedy shows, music festivals, and the hard part isn't usually deciding what you want to attend, it's actually getting the tickets. Between the long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel a lot harder than it should, and that's why so many fans are turning to Gametime. The app is built to make buying tickets simple. They have upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities that help get you to the events that you want to go to without all the usual hassle. Because one of my biggest pet peeves is when you get tickets, you find them, they're a good price for an event you want to go to, and you get to checkout and they're 20% more expensive, $15 more than you expected to pay. And Gametime takes that guesswork out. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets for every type of event by using Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Well, college sports obviously just have gone through a massive amount of change in the last 5 years, a truly unprecedented shift in terms of obviously NIL and the transfer portal, and now 5-for-5 and the house settlement, and obviously changes happening on a literal minute-by-minute basis right now with the 5-and-5 and lawsuits and everything that's going on. And obviously so many of the storylines around that are around football and basketball, as they so often are in college athletics. But I'm curious sort of some of the impact that these new rules have on you and on women's volleyball kind of collectively, and how you and your staff have sort of navigated those changes being at a school like Gonzaga, and sort of what that looks like for you to try to kind of process through all of this shift in the NCAA landscape.
Sure. I mean, NIL, that's just a reality that volleyball is going down that path as well. Some programs are headlong into it. Some are still dabbling, but that is a reality for every program to be competitive and successful at the highest levels. That's something that needs to be built out and continue to be built out. The opportunities are there. They just need to keep kind of going down the volleyball path. So we'll keep making that happen. And then the 5-for-5, the 5-for-5 is a real interesting one for volleyball, which I think is very different than basketball and football. Volleyball culture is athletes frequently verbally commit right after their sophomore year of high school. So we're making decisions, projecting our roster years out into the future. So all of a sudden, when the NCAA changes rules, and all of a sudden all of your athletes are eligible longer than you anticipated, and you have a roster cap and limited resources that in terms of how much scholarship you can give to everybody, that definitely puts a wrench into a lot of the gears. So as volleyball coaches, we're figuring it out. We're doing the best we can, but they're definitely a lot changing in a hurry, and staying nimble and flexible is a premium.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the arguments the NCAA has really been making is trying to prevent this from impacting, potential student athletes, high school, juniors, sophomores, seniors, who are maybe going to feel that squeeze potentially with some roster caps and all of that. And I know that obviously a lot of their battles right now are with this 2022 class in particular, and trying to prevent late roster movement that could impact players who've maybe already committed to schools and everything there. But, for you guys, it sounds like it's more of like projecting out to the future and making sure that, you can honor those commitments to high schoolers while also improving your program as much as you possibly can, and wanting to, make sure that you're getting the most talented players while not maybe hurting players who you've already given commitments to. Is it kind of, how do you find your ability to strike that balance, especially with rules and kind of expectations seemingly changing on a minute by minute basis?
Yeah, I think that the word balance is right. It is challenging, and you have to use the phrase, continue to improve your program, and that's right. And it's hard to balance an incoming freshman with the potential that they have, or you think they have, versus a potentially outgoing senior. Do they have more in the tank, mentally and physically? And how do you compare a 22-year-old with a 18-year-old? Not real easy all the time. And figuring out the goals of the program for the next year, because that's all we can really worry about is the next year. But we still have to consider the bigger picture and kind of the broad landscape. And I used the word inertia before. Where is the program going? So it is a challenging balance, and it's really a case-by-case basis.
How much does being in the Pac-12, and I know obviously we're literally just getting into it, so I'm sure it will change in a few months, in a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. But how much does that help kind of boost the program from a resource, financial perspective, branding perspective? More, I know the Pac-12 is still kind of working through some of their direct to consumer content in terms of how visible the games will be, but it seems like that's going to ultimately end up being more accessible for fans. At least that's the hope, I know, for the Pac-12. How have those things, again, at this early stage, sort of impacted the program with this new move?
Yeah, from a resources standpoint, I think we're still learning what that's going to be exactly for probably every institution and volleyball specifically. In terms of access, for this year, we're going to be on YouTube. So free stream for everybody, Pac-12 channel. So that'll be really easy to access. So that I think is a plus, at least in the short term, that's a big plus. So a lot of it, I think, is just a little bit to be determined. Again, the access and the more national reach is great. Even from a recruiting standpoint, I think we're seeing that already. We're having, important conversations with kids from a broader, little kind of footprint than we used to. So, I think it's a plus for us, and we'll keep hammering it where we can.
You've now been in Spokane for over a year. You've put in a full season's worth of work. What are some of the things that have maybe surprised you about Gonzaga or Spokane, or things that maybe you've really come to enjoy and love about the community, the fan base, the university, all of that, now that you've put in a little time here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first private school I've ever worked at. And I think that when they talk about being a Zag, that's actually a defined thing. And there's a pride that comes with that I think is a little bit different. And I've been at a lot of great institutions, but definitely the smaller field does have a different impact, I think, both on the students and the athletic department and university as a whole. And I think that Spokane's ability to embrace that is just really unique and really special, especially without having a football team, being tied to a smaller number of athletes that don't wear helmets. I think there's just a different identifiability that we have here, and everybody's a Zag fan, and that's really special.
So you're coming off this season of tremendous improvement for the program, joining a new league, obviously. What are some other things for fans listening who are in Spokane, who are fans of the program, fans of Gonzaga? Like, what would you want to say to them to kind of encourage them to support this team, whether it's coming out to matches, whether it's other ways to potentially support the program? I know we got that first home match coming up on the 3rd of September against Fullerton. What are kind of some of those messages that you might want to get out to those fans who maybe are hearing this and are interested in getting more involved with the volleyball program?
Yeah, I mean, we had great support last year. For my first season being here, we had a lot of alum come by, which is really special. We had more student engagement than I think the program has seen. So our matches are a lot of fun. We've also had a lot of support. We actually just installed a brand new Teraflex floor, which is the same surface that the Olympians play on, which is a big deal. It looks amazing. The space looks great. And the other piece of it is tickets are really accessible. It's $125 for a family pass of 6 for the whole season. That's tough to beat. So there's lots of great seats, even though it's starting to have to get there a little bit earlier because some of the great ones are being taken by our fans that are showing up. But it's in the Martin Center. It's really a great environment. Our athletes they're special. We have a bunch of athletes that are touching over 10 feet high, ranging in height from, I think, about 5'7" to 6'6". So we're fun to watch. So we'd love to have you come out.
Like we said, first home match, September 3rd, 6:30 p.m. First Pac-12 home match is October 1st against Colorado State. Coach, thank you so much for coming on the show. Looking forward to getting to come out and support some of these matches as well. Should be a really exciting year 2 in Spokane.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Appreciate it.
All right. A huge thank you to Coach JT Wenger for joining me on the show today. Getting ready for a very exciting season of Gonzaga volleyball, one of the first Pac-12 schools to get going after those soccer programs. Go check those events out if you can. If you're in the area, I'm definitely going to be going to a few games, so it'll be fun to see you all there. That is going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. Thanks so much, folks, for making the show your first listen or watch of the day. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on what's going on with crazy amounts of 5-5 rulings, the SEC, the Big Ten coming out with statements around former pros returning to sports, what it means for Gonzaga, what it means for Isan Almansa, for Xavion Lee, all of that as we get closer to September, where we'll eventually start our player preview series. Got to get that roster finalized before we can get into that. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Zags.